I'm Haley Taylor, and you're listening to the Rough Draft Diaries. I met up with artist Yusuf Lateef for this week's episode of the Rough Draft Diaries. He was busy painting when we met. He wasn't painting a canvas, though. He was painting a house, although he doesn't find a huge difference in the practice between the two.
Yeah, like I'm doing this interior painting, so I look at this as an art practice. I look at everything that I do that I'm trying to master, or there's a process involved. I look at it as an art form. There's an art form to parenting. There's an art form to interviewing. Things that we do that are closest to us, we kind of like don't attach the word art to it.
Yusuf immediately jumps into the philosophy of art right at the beginning of our interview. Actually, every question I asked, regardless of how simple, he would reply with a heavy, rich answer. It made for a great conversation. A long one, about an hour long, but I'm not complaining. I really love what we talked about. I only wish I could bring you more of the twists and turns of where our chat led to. Even a question of how Yusuf started painting eventually found its way into an artistic motto.
I built up a love for drawing and painting. I like photography, but I wouldn't consider myself a photographer. But I like all of these things. Like an artist we were recently looking at, he doesn't want to master any of the tools or materials that he uses. He wants to stay a beginner because he feels that there's a more innocent, less elitist type of way of looking at art making. Like anybody can enter into this. And that's kind of what I teach and how I look at art for others too. It's more intuitive. I have a deep respect for outsider artists, people that haven't gone to any kind of school or just kind of picked it up from their own drive,
Yusuf, however, did go to school. He went to Whitmer High School here in Toledo and then Columbus College of Art. But he left school just before his senior year to pursue his faith. Yusuf converted to Islam with a semester of school left and moved back to Toledo, making a living in trades work. He did eventually receive that Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Columbus, and then he enrolled in BGSU's Master of Fine Arts program, which he recently graduated from. Now he's an artist, a teacher, a tradesman, an activist, a father, and having the opportunity to look back on his old school days made him think about his past successes and failures and how that idea, success and failure, ultimately paints the perfect picture of the process of being an artist.
Oh man, I felt inadequate. I felt like I wasn't good enough, always. Like, even till when I went to grad school as an older student, like this is a few years ago, I felt like I don't belong. This is a very academic space, So it was, you put yourselves in these situations where you're going to fail. You're not going to do it how you would have done it or will do it after you've done it 10 or 13 times, right? So the artist is humble enough to allow themselves to fail and learn through their failure, because you fail every day, but we attach it to our personal ways of calculating, our success, but that's not fair to ourselves,
Now, in an interview where you get asked questions like, how did you become an artist? Or why did you become an artist? It creates the perfect opportunity for one to look back on past decisions, past failures and successes. But it seems Yusuf is always aware of the past, almost as if it's just behind his shoulder. He doesn't dwell on it, though. There's a good balance of looking to the future and remembering the past. He doesn't seem to regret anything either. Going to school, leaving school, going back to school, having a child. He talked about wishing to have more security as an artist, though. Like those artists that he watches on Art 21, the ones that have assistants or cavernous studios. But he quickly checks himself after he mentions that and says he doesn't know if that life is truly made for him. Instead, he looks at life like the same way he looks at creating artwork, there being a balance in all things.
I'm not to say where my purpose finds me, right? So then I flip to the idea of like, not only are you using the things at your resource, but those things that are at your command at that moment are the things that you were praying for before they came about. So you are in that place that you were hoping to be in. So instead of trying to spend your time trying to be a soothsayer and read the tea leaves, I'd rather spend my time engaged in the present, right? So that way I am considering the future and the outcomes of things, and I am paying homage to the past, right? So it's like, man, you just gotta get in the boat. You got some rowers, and you know your general destination, but you can't calculate each little ripple. So if you're always trying to be honest with what's happening, then you are sincerely seeking for some type of balance. And that right there is a very natural thing. So if I can do that, then I think that aligns with my artistic identity pretty well.
I'm Haley Taylor, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Rough Draft Diaries.